Alright, so I am back, and today, by request, we're going to be taking a look at the different Megatrons here, and to determine which one's the best and which one fits into what the best. Now, unlike my other chart reviews, this is more like the Bruticus review, where I'm not going to be looking at the individual alt modes, primarily because I can't find his wings, and because their alt modes are so different from one another. It's not like the Predacons, where, if we look at 3 different dive bombs, we're looking at 3 different Eagles. We've got a gun, a tank, and a Cybertronian tank, hover tank thing. So they're completely different from one another, and it just wouldn't work. So, that being said, let's dive right in. So, we've got a number of different categories here. We got bot mode, alt mode. I'll talk about the alt modes. Scale, posability, paint job, G1 aesthetics, style, and weapons. So let's get right into it. So for the bot mode, this one, I find this one very lacking. He's very, okay, I'm Megatron. Here I am. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but now he does supposed to have wings. If you knock the pin out, like Dragon Superman did for this guy, if you knock the pin out, then you don't have to deal with the wings. Some people just cut it off entirely, but this particular one had him removed, and that doesn't makes it so that he's no longer back heavy, which is pretty nice. All around, it's a good figure. He does look good. Head sculpt is a little wonky for Megatron. Not quite the Megatron I remember as growing up. And overall, not quite the right Megatron. Then we come over to Generations, or Combiner Wars. Now, this is the Megatron I grew up with. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but this is the embodiment of a really good-looking Megatron. He looks great. He's got a little back kibble, but it's actually not that offensive. And his head sculpt, more than anything, is Megatron. It's going to be hard for anybody to top that. And then we get to the War for Cybertron Megatron, which doesn't pull off that whole G1 Megatron vibe, but at the same time, it's full of character. He's full of character because it reminds you so much of G1. He's full of character because he's just so unique looking, and he does definitely have a menace to him. He's just very angular. He looks great. Like I said, he's kind of straight up and down like he is, but he's got some aesthetics to him that don't quite match right, or look quite right, in my opinion, in comparison to these two, when it comes to just talking about the first impression of the bot modes. If I were walking by, never seen these guys before, and somebody said, hey, pick up one of these guys, it would be down to these two, and I don't know which one I'd pick. This guy I'd leave on the shelf, with or without the wings. So, for bot mode, I'm going to give a point to the Combiner Wars and War for Cybertron. Alt mode's going to go pretty much the same way. Now, he almost gets a point. Almost, because he actually does turn into a gun, which is something the other two don't, and that's what the G1 figure and character did. Why am I not going to give him a point here? Because it's a Nerf gun. Nothing screams like the Emperor of Destruction more than a Nerf gun. Think about that. This is your big imposing villain, is a Nerf gun. Now, Granted, the fact that Hasbro's having some difficulties putting out toy guns, which is understandable, given what happens when kids have toy guns and ignorant people see that and shoot at them. It's a very reasonable thing to do. Now, having him turn into a Cybertronian tank based off of the video game works very well. If you can't turn into a gun, turn into a tank. And a Cybertronian tank at that. And this is one of the few Cybertronian modes where it's like, when he does turn into a tank, he does look great. And this guy, his alt mode is just incredible. When he gets into that tank mode, it sells it. And bottom line, when it comes to alt mode, and this is kind of getting off track here a bit, but the bottom line here is that if he... for those people that are really sticklers on scale, like the people that say Superion should be the biggest combiner because of the fact that they're jets, but then they overlook the fact that the Predacons would be the smallest because they're animals. And they say, oh, well, they're Cybertronian animals. Well, okay, excuses. They're Cybertronian jets, even if they look like real-world jets. And then they talk about mass shifting. Well, mass shifting can put them back into regular scale, too. But this goes into the argument for that, because you got to think, a gun versus a truck. Unless that gun's a Desert Eagle, that truck's going to win. But a truck versus a tank, that's more an appropriate size scale. So if you're talking about a truck versus tank, the Classics Optimus does actually scale pretty well with it. If you think about it, just the cab of the truck. So just a cab of a semi-truck versus a tank, this would actually scale pretty well for those people. Just saying. We'll talk more about scale in a moment. But anyway, as far as alt mode goes, I'm going to give a point to the War for Cybertron because it does represent the game and a pre-Earth mode for Megatron. And it does a pretty good job of doing that. And I'm going to give a point to Combiner Wars because it does turn into a very realistic looking tank that looks awesome. The tank is just stellar. So those two will get a point. Nerf Gun Megatron will not get a point for his alt mode. I'm sorry, but that's just not going to happen. If you got your heart set on a Megatron that turns into a gun, get Hegemon, and then be prepared for some quality control issues and clear plastic joints. They're going to fall apart on you, and you're going to be very upset. Just warning you. Scale. Let's talk scale. So, the first thing we got to talk about, Classic Seeker Mold. So if you're going with the Classic Seeker Mold, this works pretty well. He's still a full head taller than him, and he definitely has more bulk to him. So it does look good together. Moving him off to the side. Now we got Classics Megatron, and he comes up to about mid-chest. And you could, without the wings anyway, so he's a little reduced on mass. Starscream here does work pretty well with him. Personally, I would still prefer Seeker to be about right here on him. But if you go up to like the vents, then yes, he's pretty close to where I would ideally want a Seeker. So one could say it's pretty close. Again, he's still taller than the vents. So, and of course, he does not work with the leader class figure. So if you're going with a little bit bigger classics, you could still use him, and it'll look good. If you're going with the regular classics, like mostly deluxe figures, he works pretty well. Now for scale with this guy, he doesn't work in classics unless you're going all really big, and at that point you might as well go masterpiece. So Brainstorm here, like I said, is about the same size as a iGear Seeker. So if you got the iGear Seekers, this would work really well. It wouldn't work with anybody else, but it does work pretty well. And scale-wise, here he is with the MP Grimlock, who's just a little shorter than Optimus. And, you know, these guys are about the same height. So he would actually work decently in a masterpiece line. Not very well, not perfectly, but decently. And then the last thing to bring in is the Classics Optimus Prime. Now there's a number of different Optimus Primes one can use. So he doesn't scale well with him, but there's a War for Cybertron Optimus Prime that's supposed to go with him. So that works. So those two work together. These two scale almost perfectly if you're just looking for the classic cartoon look. And then if you're stickler with scale, this, like I said, would work if you're considering him as classics as a tank as versus a semi-truck. But then you'll never have a good collection. You're going to be bouncing all over the place. So, ultimately, I think because this one would only work with really large classics to MPs, and this guy would only work with small classics, whereas this guy can work with the smaller classics and the bigger classics, not the really large ones, but the bigger ones. So I'm going to have to give the point to the Henkei, or classics. Posability. Let's talk posability. Alright. So his head is on a ball joint. Gets a good range of motion there. Arms ratchet up and down. Nice ratchets. In and out. Swivel. So you get pretty good range of motion there. Elbows bend. Nothing at the hands. Nothing at the waist. Hips, softer ratchet. Up and down. In and out. Thigh swivel. Ratchet knee, foot, toe has a pivot, and the heel has a pivot. So he's a pretty good posability. Pretty good posability going on there. This one, he's got the ball jointed head, so that works pretty well. Arms go up and down, in and out. That's pretty much it. He does have the swivel up the bicep. And he's got a bend at this elbow right there that gives him full range all the way up. And that's pretty nice. Nothing at the hands or anything else. Waist swivels. Hips go up and down. In and out. There's a thigh swivel. Really great bend at the knee. And then he does have forward and back ankle rocker and an ankle tilt. So he edges out him because he's just a little bit more posable, and the joints he has have a little bit more movement to him. Big guy here. Head is not on a ball joint, it's on a swivel, so it goes around, up and down, works pretty well. Arms ratchet up and down, they go in and out. It does look really weird here. Swivels at the elbow, bends there, hands do nothing, waist nothing, hips go up and out, bends a little bit at the knee, And then the foot has the tiniest bit of rocker, and it kind of goes forward, but not back. So ultimately, for posability, there's really only one that wins, and that's him. And that's just a barely win. They're almost about the same. He just has a little bit more play in the feet, and the knees and elbows have more bend than either one of these two. Paint job. All right. So we'll talk about him real quick. Really nice paint on him, but not very much. It's very subtle. He's got the gray plastic going on with some red paint, black paint here and there. It's got some clear purple breakup going on here. Doesn't have... Oh, yeah, he does have red eyes. But there's purple light piping with painted red eyes, so I'm not really going to get it. Got more of this purple going on there. Red really helps break him up a little bit. Oh no, he's pretty good. Henkei. Now there's 3 different versions of this mold. The Henkei is the second best. The Classics is the worst. The best one is United. He's got a lot more silver paint to him. But anyway, he's got some gray plastic going on here. Some silver paint accents, some chrome right there. Yellow breaking up the chest piece. Some chrome. Some more red accents here and there. Chromey Decepticon logo that's a little faded. Not too bad though. That's nothing against him. That's just the figure lost some paint. Some more silver paint going on here. Oh no, he does look pretty nice. The chrome really does add to it, but at the same time, having such little silver paint and chrome, and having so much gray plastic really does make me sit here and go, well, they should have either gone all out with the silver paint and ditched the chrome, or gone all gray plastic. And just hit a few key places. Like these look nice with the chrome. You know, maybe like this right here would look nice with chrome. You know, or like this right here would look nice with the chrome. But just having this one piece right here in the chest, just kind of, it's cool, but it's not that great. Then we get into the big boy, and basically, this whole thing, it's got a few gray plastic accents, but all of this is silver paint. This is all painted on. Gorgeous paint. Yeah, I was drooling over this while I was doing the review. I mean, unless this is molded silver plastic, which I would be incredibly surprised if they could do that, and if they could, wow, I want to see more of this. This is just amazing, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to see if there's any point in here. Yeah, see, like, no, even that's silvery. Just even on the inside, it's silvery. I mean, they, like I said, either they painted this thing all silver paint, or they, are those separate pieces there? They're not. Ha! Right there. So this isn't a separate piece. This is all part of the same piece here. They just didn't paint this chrome because if you plug things onto it, it would strip the paint. So anyway, not chrome, but silver paint. But anyway, just all around gorgeous silver paint. I mean, they went way out of the way on this figure when it comes to that. And he's got these red breakups here and there. Most of this red is molded plastic, but some of it is paint. Like all of this is painted on, I believe. Yeah. And then you can see like the slight different color there. The slight gray plastics here and here help break it up. The black. This looks like it's painted on, whereas this is definitely molded black. This is molded black. The hands are molded black. Oh, he does have wrist swivel. Ha! It was just really tight. Alright. And his cannon does rotate. You know what? I'm going to go back and give him a point in posability too. Because he's got that. And I forgot the cannon rotated too. It's not just stationary. But yeah, anyway. So paint on him is just gorgeous. It looks great. The purples, the yellows, the blue. I mean, there's a little blue there. I mean, everything about it just... They really took their time and care with making this figure. I just wish he was a couple size scales smaller, and he would have been perfect. So hands down, he wins the paint. G1 aesthetics. I mean, do I really need to get into this? Like I said earlier, he looks nice. But he doesn't quite pull off the G1. I mean, like, when you first got him, when this guy first came out, it was like, wow, he looks like Megatron. And then he came out and it's like, wow, he looks more like Megatron than he does. And somewhere along the lines, we just forgot what G1 Megatron looked like, I guess. And then he comes out, and it's like, oh yeah. I mean, I do wish the cannon was a little bit bigger, like wider. Doesn't need to be longer. I think it's a little too long, but a little bit wider would have been nice. But yeah, hands down, he wins the G1. Style, though, definitely has to go to him. Definitely him. He just screams more style. He seems more alive in my mind than these two. And then weapons. Wow. Okay, so we got giant cannon. More stylized type cannon. Definitely looks pretty awesome. And he can get some wicked poses too, by the way. He can get some pretty wicked poses. These two can't. He comes with a gun, but I mean, honestly, it's Megatron. We're not looking at that. We're looking at this. And I think this one, like I said, is a little too long. It's broken up right here because of the gimmick with it. I don't think it's fat enough. And then he's over here, and he's got this ginormous cannon. It's in the wrong position, but I prefer it on this end. I've seen it so many different ways. I prefer it on this hand, like on the forearm, because that'd just be more useful on that position, whereas this one would kind of block up the shoulder like it does. Having it underslung like this is not my favorite at all. I'm not a fan of that. But the weapon itself looks nice. This is, to me, proportionally about where, maybe a little too big, but I really like the way it looks. It definitely pulls off the original G1 vibe. Maybe if this was attached to him, it would look better. But I think it works really well. So, I'm going to give the point to him. And it doesn't shoot missiles. That's another point. Alright, so let's get these guys out of the way, and we'll determine who is the better Megatron, really. I mean, it doesn't really going to say much, but War for Cybertron 1, 2, 3, 4. Combiner Wars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Henkei's 2. So, winner is Combiner Wars. I do think he's the best of the three Megatrons. Now, there is still the Hegemon that's out there, and I think he just falls a little short. Cost, build quality and all that, and longevity. I really don't think that's going to last a very long time. Just the way it's set up. With those clear plastic joints, those things worry me so much. So yeah, ultimately I have to say, I think really honestly these are the two best options for Megatron. I really wish we'd get one right in between the two in size, which, you know, he is, but I think he's just, you know, from the classics line, he's probably the one that shows the age the worst. He's still nice, but, you know, it's like the Optimus, he still looks like he could do a lot of good on classic shelves. You know, maybe a updated paint scheme with some metallic red chrome, or not chrome, but some metallic red paint, like Starscream. Like, if he was all this color, that would be awesome. So yeah. He aged well. I think the Seeker mold aged very well. Yeah, it should be bigger, but, you know, Rodimus looks good still. Bumblebee's starting to show his age in comparison to other things, but this guy is out of date. We need an updated Classics Megatron that's in classic scale. That's the big thing. We need it in classic scale. So, if you're going for the larger classics, you might as well go all the way and get this guy. I think he'll be your best option. Yes, there's Hegemon, but I can't bring myself to sit here and recommend him. If you're going to smaller classics, this guy might be a better option. Yeah, he's small. He's smaller than others, but I still think he looks really nice. And I just wish somebody would upscale this to a Voyager. I think this has always been one of my favorite Megatrons ever. And even though I'm not a huge fan of him, I have to give credit where credit's due. That's what the chart's for. I can't sit here and say he's a better Megatron, even though personally I think he is, when he's got so many points to him saying that he is a better Megatron. So there you go. Better Megatron all around. Just not the right size Megatron that we need. It's Megatron we've always wanted, but not the Megatron we need. Alright, that sounds stupid. Alright, so question of the day is, who do you think is the better Megatron? Or do you think Hegemon really truly is the best Megatron of them all? I have to disagree with that. But, you know, there's always Prime Megatron. We can always use Prime Megatron too. So anyway, there you go.